I take full responsibility for my actions, and it was not my intent to disrespect Your Honor or to disobey the court's orders. I stand here today scared and vulnerable, begging the court to understand that I'm not a lazy parent.
A mother put behind bars for refusing to vaccinate her son. The judge sentencing the Michigan woman for ignoring a court order, but she says that she was just practicing her religious freedom. So who is in the right here? Let's debate it with former criminal defense attorney Emily Campagno and attorney Jesse Weber. Thank you both for joining us bright and early this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So, Emily, I will start with you and the obvious question, who's in the right?
Here at Michigan is one of 20 states that allows for religious and personal exemptions for vaccinations, but that is not what is at issue here. It's important for viewers to understand that this is not a case actually of religious freedom for vaccination. It's that this mother signed the court order agreeing she would vaccinate her child in a custodial battle. So she's being held in contempt not because she's refusing to vaccinate her child. It's because she's refusing to comply with that signed court order. Well, that is ironclad.
And we're taking a look at some of the maps here and the states impacted in different ways. 47 states with religious exemptions, of which Michigan is one. 18 states with personal exemptions, of which Michigan is one. But then there are also states with no exemptions. There are only 3, and Michigan isn't a part of that. Jesse, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Emily that this is an issue about the court order, but it's not so simple. Just because she disobeyed a court order, which I wouldn't have recommended her to do, doesn't mean that she's in the wrong. The initial agreement that she had with her husband was to vaccinate their son, but spread the vaccinations out, delay them. Now her concern was to group the vaccinations together, and it is her argument that grouping them together goes against her religious beliefs, and as you said, it could go against her personal beliefs, and she has every right under Michigan law to not vaccinate her child under those standards. And also, let me just say, she did what you were supposed to do under Michigan, which was take the required classes about the dangers of not vaccinating your child before you get that exemption. Yeah. So she is in the right in that way.
So her son is now 9 years old. Does it matter if she took that class that you're mentioning before or after the agreement, the custodial agreement where she agreed to vaccinate the child?
Well, the danger is she already signed that and her attorney signed it. So technically what she should...
Before taking the class.
Right. What she should have done was modify the agreement with her husband, get some modification. Her grounds for doing so are just. You have a religious exemption, you're allowed to do it, but you can't go against a court-appointed document or a court order. That's where she was in the wrong.
Emily, also, she is the primary caregiver in this situation. How does that impact the court's decision?
That is why the court is weighing this so heavily. Now, originally, as Jesse mentioned, this was that custodial battle in which that vaccination agreement was crucial to the court awarding her that primary custody. So it's important that they are weighing this so heavily because of that. And also about the classes, that's under her right. Absolutely her right, but it's not necessarily required. And so here she has that kind of feasibility that she can move forward with this. It's also important to note that she argues, well, my attorney signed it, but in the eyes of the court, it's the same thing, whether it's the attorney or you. So if she's really arguing that it was somehow without her knowledge, then that's a whole host of other issues about filing malpractice. But it's important to note, again, when you sign on that line, it's ironclad.
And Jesse, other people watching this case, obviously, how do you think this could impact other cases moving forward?
Well, the funny thing is there's no constitutional protected right to have a religious exemption to vaccines, but it's opening the dialogue. We're in the beginning of this evolving stage of the law, and we're going to have to see where it goes. Again, as Emily said, this is not so much an issue about religious exemptions. It's more an issue of if you get ordered by the court to do something, you better follow it or you get in trouble.
And Emily, you get the final word on this, how it will impact things moving forward.
Right. The takeaway here is that the courts are loath to go back on an agreement. So for viewers to take away anything, it is you have to comply, weigh these things heavily before you sign on that line.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion recently, actually past several years, in terms of vaccinations, whether or not they should be required, whether or not they're healthy for the child, all of that. All right. Thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it this morning.